27 men walked away when the money ran out. The 28th one stayed, and that terrified her more than all the others combined. Isabella Reed, billionaire CEO, had spent 3 years testing men on blind dates by pretending to be broke. Every single one failed. Until Caleb Moore, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a 7-year-old daughter, paid for her coffee without hesitation and asked about her family instead of her future. But the closer she got to his world, the heavier her lie became. And when the truth exploded across every headline, she lost the only thing her money couldn't buy. Stay until the end to see if love can survive the ultimate betrayal. Like this video and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. The rain came down in sheets that Tuesday evening, turning the cracked pavement outside Rosie's diner into a mirror of neon lights and broken promises. Isabella Reed sat in the corner booth, the one with the torn vinyl seat that pinched the back of your thighs if you sat wrong, and watched water streak down the window like tears she'd forgotten how to cry. She was wearing a faded Target sweatshirt, Goodwill jeans with a frayed hem, shoes she'd bought specifically because they looked tired, worn by someone who counted hours until payday. Her hair hung loose and unstyled, deliberately messy in a way that had taken her makeup artist 20 minutes to perfect before Isabella fired her and did it herself. No jewelry, no designer bag, nothing that whispered the truth, that the woman picking at the chipped coffee mug owned a tech empire worth $4.2 billion. This was attempt number 28. 27 men had already failed this test. 27 variations of the same disappointment, the same script, the same hollow feeling in her chest when they revealed exactly who they were the moment money entered the equation. Some lasted longer than others. A few made it to the third date before the cracks showed, but they all failed eventually. And honestly, she was exhausted. "You want a refill, honey?" The waitress, Donna, according to her name tag, appeared with a pot of coffee that smelled burnt and tasted worse. "I'm good, thanks." Isabella smiled the way Izzy would smile. Izzy, her alter ego. The broke retail worker who took the bus and split appetizers because entrees were too expensive. Izzy, who'd never fired anyone or crushed a competitor or stood in a boardroom and made grown men afraid with just her silence. Izzy was easier to be than Isabella ever was. "You waiting on someone?" Donna asked, her voice carrying that particular kindness that came from years of watching people get stood up. "Yeah, blind date." Isabella checked her phone. 7:47 p.m. He was 17 minutes late. "Though I'm starting to think—" The door chimed. A man stumbled in, shaking rain from his dark hair, muttering an apology to no one in particular. He wore jeans streaked with what looked like motor oil, work boots that had seen better years, and a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and stained with grease he'd clearly tried and failed to scrub away. Caleb Moore, 34. Mechanic. Single father. Isabella's private investigator had provided a file thick enough to tell her everything except what mattered, whether he'd passed the test. "Izzy?" He spotted her, relief flooding his face as he crossed the diner. "I'm so sorry I'm late. Mia, my daughter, she had a meltdown about her science project, and then traffic was a nightmare, and I swear I left 20 minutes early, but it's fine." Isabella gestured to the seat across from her. "Really?" He slid into the booth, still apologizing, still radiating the frantic energy of someone whose day had fought them every step of the way. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the kind that came from working double shifts and single parenthood and a life that didn't leave room for much else. He wasn't handsome in the way the others had been. No practiced smile or careful grooming or cologne that cost more than this diner's monthly rent. He looked real, tired, human. "I didn't even ask if you wanted to meet somewhere nicer," Caleb said, glancing around the diner with what looked like embarrassment. "This place is kind of a dump." "I picked it," Isabella reminded him. She had, always did. The cheaper the location, the faster most men's interest evaporated. "I like it here. It's honest." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or appreciation. Yeah, it is." Donna reappeared with another coffee mug, filled it without asking, and disappeared again. The diner hummed with the low soundtrack of other people's lives. A couple arguing quietly near the register, a lone trucker reading a newspaper at the counter, a family with 3 kids who were definitely past their bedtime. So, Caleb wrapped his hands around the mug like he needed the warmth. I gotta be honest, I haven't done this in a while. The whole dating thing. My buddy Mike set up my profile as a birthday present, and I've mostly been ignoring it because who has time, you know? But your message seemed, I don't know, real. Isabella had written it herself. No assistant, no carefully crafted marketing copy. Just the truth about wanting to meet someone genuine in a world that felt increasingly fake. I'm glad you responded, she said, and meant it. Despite everything, despite the lies she was living, the tests she was running, the wall she'd built around anything resembling hope, there was something about the nervous way he smiled that made her want this to be different. Tell me about your daughter, Isabella said. She always led with this question. Most men either minimized their kids to seem more available or talked about them like accessories rather than people. It was a reliable filter. Caleb's entire face changed. Mia. He said her name the way some people said prayers. She's 7. Just lost her first tooth last week and put it under her pillow, even though she knows the tooth fairy is just me sneaking in at midnight. He laughed, pulling out his phone to show her his lock screen. A little girl with wild curls and missing front teeth, grinning at the camera with pure, unfiltered joy. She's the smartest person I know, reads at a 5th grade level, wants to be a marine biologist this week. Last week it was an astronaut, week before that a chef who only makes desserts. Isabella found herself leaning forward. What happened with her mom? Most men deflected this question or turned bitter. Caleb just looked sad. She left when Mia was 6 months old, said she wasn't ready to be a mother, that she'd made a mistake, that she needed to find herself. He traced the rim of his coffee mug. I was angry for a long time. But Mia's never known anything except me and her, so to her, this is normal. This is family. I try to make sure it's enough. I'm sure it is, Isabella said quietly. Some days I believe that. He looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time with full attention. Other days I worry I'm screwing it all up, that she needs more than I can give her, that someday she'll realize other kids have 2 parents and dance lessons and college funds, and all she has is a dad who smells like motor oil and can barely afford new shoes. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside Isabella's chest. This wasn't performance. This was real fear, real love, real humanity spilling out over burnt coffee in a diner that charged $6.99 for meatloaf. What about you? Caleb asked. You said in your profile you work retail. Here it was. The lie she'd told so many times it almost felt true. Yeah, manager at a clothing store downtown. She'd rehearsed this story until it had flesh and bones. Nothing glamorous, lots of inventory and customer complaints and telling teenagers they can't have Saturday off. But you like it? No one ever asked if she liked it. They usually asked how much she made or whether she got discounts or when she planned to do something better. It pays the bills, Isabella said carefully. Mostly. Caleb nodded like he understood exactly what mostly meant. I hear that. Some months I'm choosing between Mia's field trip money and getting the car fixed. He paused, something self-conscious crossing his face. Sorry, that's probably not great first date conversation. Hi, I'm broke. Want dessert? Isabella laughed, a real laugh that surprised her. It's honest. There's that word again. He smiled. Honest. You keep saying it like it matters. Doesn't it? Yeah. Caleb held her gaze. Yeah, I think it does. They talked for an hour, then 2. Donna refilled their coffee 3 times and stopped looking concerned about the table turnover. Isabella learned that Caleb had worked at Morrison's auto shop for 12 years, that he'd inherited his father's toolbox and his mother's stubbornness, that he read Mia stories every night even when he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open. He asked about Isabella's family, another question most men skipped. She told him the truth about her parents dying in a car accident when she was 23, leaving her alone in ways that money could never fix. She just left out the part about the trust fund and the company she'd built from their legacy, and the fact that alone for her meant alone in a penthouse with a view of the city that never stopped glowing. I'm sorry, Caleb said when she finished. That must have been devastating. It was. Isabella traced the chip in her coffee mug. Still is some days. You think you're past it, and then you see something that reminds you, and it hits all over again. Grief is like that. Caleb's voice carried the weight of someone who understood. It doesn't go away. You just get stronger at carrying it. The rain had stopped by the time Donna brought the check. She set it on the table between them. $23.47 for 2 coffees, a shared slice of apple pie, and hours of conversation that had felt like stepping into a life Isabella didn't know she wanted. This was the moment. The test. Isabella reached for her purse, made a show of searching through it, and then let confusion cloud her face. Oh no. What's wrong? My wallet. She looked up at Caleb with perfectly practiced embarrassment. I must have left it at work. I'm so sorry. I can Venmo you right now, or I can run home and don't worry about it. Caleb was already pulling out his own wallet, worn leather, held together with hope and habit. He counted out 2 20s, leaving a tip that was probably more generous than he could afford. My treat. Are you sure? I feel terrible. It's coffee and pie, not a steak dinner. He smiled, but Isabella saw him glance at the remaining bills in his wallet before putting it away. Doing the math. Recalculating what the rest of his week looked like now. Besides, you can get the next one. There it was. The thing that separated him from all the others. 27 men had walked away when money became uncomfortable. Some made excuses about forgotten appointments. Others suggested she cover it since she'd chosen the place. A few got angry, accusing her of wasting their time. One memorably told her she should get her life together before dating, but Caleb just paid, without hesitation, without resentment, without making her feel small for a mistake that wasn't even real. Next one, Isabella repeated, something warm and terrifying unfurling in her chest. I'd like that. They walked out together into the clean, rain-washed night. The city smelled like wet concrete and new beginnings. Caleb's truck was parked 3 blocks away. He'd circled looking for free street parking rather than pay for a lot, and he walked her to her car first. She'd bought a used Honda specifically for these dates. 10 years old, 1 bumper slightly dented, the kind of car that screamed struggling retail manager. She'd memorized everything about it until she could talk about its problems like they were real. The check engine light that came on every winter, the AC that only worked on the highest setting, the CD player that got stuck and played the same Kings of Leon album for 3 months. You going to be okay getting home? Caleb asked. Yeah, it's not far. He hesitated, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who wanted to do something but wasn't sure of the rules. I had a really good time tonight, despite, being late and probably talking about my kid too much, and you didn't. Isabella turned to face him fully. Talk about her too much, I mean. It was nice. Hearing someone speak about what matters to them. She's all that matters to me, Caleb said it simply, like stating the color of the sky. Everything else is just noise, ways to make sure she has what she needs. Most men would have kissed her by now, moved into her space, tested the boundaries, taken what they thought the moment offered. Caleb just stood there, respectful distance maintained, looking at her like she was something worth being careful with. Can I call you? He asked. Tomorrow, maybe? Or is that too soon? I don't know the rules anymore. Tomorrow's good. Isabella surprised herself by meaning it. I work until 6, but after that, I'll call it 6:30. He smiled, that same nervous, genuine smile that had caught her off guard when he first walked in. Give you time to get home. He waited until she was in the car, engine started, before he walked away. Isabella watched him in the rearview mirror, this man with grease under his nails and holes in his budget, and a daughter who was his entire world. She should have felt triumphant. He'd passed the test. Finally, after 27 failures, someone had done the decent thing without expecting applause for basic humanity. But instead, she felt sick. Because Caleb Moore wasn't a test subject. He was a tired single father who just spent money he probably needed on coffee and pie for a woman who was lying to him about everything except the parts that hurt to talk about. Isabella drove to her real home, the penthouse on the 40th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that cost more than Caleb made in a year. She changed out of her costume and into silk pajamas. She poured herself wine from a bottle that cost $400 and stared out at the city glittering below her like a universe of people living real lives. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Caleb. Mike gave me your number. Hope that's okay. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe and to say thanks for tonight." It was the first time in a long time I didn't feel like I had to pretend to be someone I'm not. Sleep well, Izzy. Isabella stared at that message until the screen went dark. The first time I didn't feel like I had to pretend to be someone I'm not. She'd created this test to protect herself from liars and users, and people who wanted her money more than they wanted her. She'd spent 3 years perfecting the trap, refining the variables, documenting the failures. But she'd never considered that by pretending to be someone else, she'd become exactly what she was trying to avoid. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark window. A billionaire in silk, holding a phone containing a message from a man who thought she counted pennies and took the bus. Isabella Reed had designed the perfect test, and for the first time, she wasn't sure who was really being tested. The next morning came too early and too bright. Isabella sat in her office, 39th floor, corner suite, a view that showed her the whole city like a board game she'd already won, and tried to focus on the quarterly reports her CFO was presenting. The AI division exceeded projections by 17%, Marcus was saying, his voice carrying that particular satisfaction of someone delivering good news. "If we maintain this trajectory, we're looking at a market cap increase of—" "What happens when you lie to someone?" Isabella interrupted. Marcus stopped mid-sentence, his presentation frozen on a graph of exponential growth. "I'm sorry?" "When you lie to someone about who you are, what happens?" Her CFO exchanged glances with the 3 other executives seated around the conference table. They looked at her the way people look at ticking packages, uncertain whether to run or call for help. "Is this a philosophical question?" Marcus ventured carefully. Isabella waved her hand dismissively. "Never mind. Continue." But she couldn't focus. The numbers blurred into meaninglessness. The graphs just shapes, the projections nothing but guesses about a future that suddenly felt less certain than it had 24 hours ago. Her phone sat face down on the table. She'd already checked it 6 times in the past hour. No new messages. Caleb had said he'd call at 6:30. It was only 11:15. She had 7 hours and 15 minutes to figure out whether she was going to continue this lie or what? Tell the truth? Admit that everything about Izzy was manufactured fiction designed to test his character like he was a lab rat in her personal experiment? Explain that she was actually one of the wealthiest women in the country and had been playing dress-up in his world like it was a theme park attraction? She could already see his face, the betrayal, the anger, the hurt. "Isabella?" Marcus's voice pulled her back. "Are you all right? You seem distracted." "I'm fine." She stood abruptly, gathering papers she hadn't read. "Let's table this until tomorrow. I need to think." She retreated to her office and closed the door. Real wood, custom made, the kind of door that sealed you away from the world and all its messy complications. Except the complications followed her inside, taking the shape of a text message from a man who thought honesty mattered. Her assistant, Jennifer, appeared with her afternoon schedule and a latte that cost $18. "You have the board meeting at 2, dinner with the venture capital group at 7, and the Times wants to interview you about—" "Cancel the dinner," Isabella said. Jennifer's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly. "Cancel dinner with Blackstone Capital? They've been trying to get this meeting for 3 months. Reschedule it, something came up." "May I ask what?" Isabella looked at her assistant, 26, brilliant, ambitious, the kind of person who'd sell her grandmother for a corner office and wouldn't understand why that was a problem. "No," Isabella said simply. At 6:30 p.m. exactly, her phone rang. She was in her car, the real one, the Tesla that cost more than Caleb's annual salary, parked outside her building because sitting in her penthouse felt too much like the lie it was. She stared at his name on the screen for 3 rings before answering. "Hello? Hey, Izzy?" His voice came through warm and slightly uncertain. "You made it home okay yesterday?" "Yeah, thanks for checking. How was work?" Isabella looked at her building's glass facade reflecting the sunset. 40 floors of her empire, Thousands of people whose livelihoods depended on her decisions, billions of dollars in market value that could shift with a single word from her mouth. Long, she said, which was true, even if the details were fiction. Lots of inventory drama, Caleb laughed. I had a transmission blow up on me today, so I feel you on the drama. Literally blow up. There's still fluid on the ceiling. They talked for 20 minutes. Easy conversation that flowed like water finding its level. He told her about Mia's science project, a volcano that had erupted prematurely at breakfast, covering the kitchen in baking soda lava. She told him about a difficult customer, pulling from a story her assistant had mentioned about her own retail job years ago. The lies came easier than they should have. So listen, Caleb said, his voice shifting to something more nervous. I know it's fast, but Mia has a thing at her school on Saturday. Just a little science fair where the kids show off their projects. She'd love it if you came. No pressure if it's too weird or too soon, but Isabella's heart stopped. You want me to meet your daughter? I mean, yeah, eventually, if this goes somewhere. He paused. I don't introduce her to people casually, but I told her I had a really nice date with someone who seemed kind, and now she's convinced you're her new best friend and wants to show you her volcano. 27 men had never made it to this point. Most barely made it past the first date. None of them had ever trusted her enough to bring her into the most sacred part of their lives. Saturday, Isabella repeated. It's okay if you can't. Really, I know it's a lot. She should say no, should end this now before it got more complicated, before the lie grew roots, before she hurt people who deserved better than her calculated deception. What time? She asked instead. The relief in his voice was audible. 2:00. It's at Riverside Elementary. I'll meet you outside. I'll be there. After they hung up, Isabella sat in her car as the sun set and the city lights began their nightly performance. She thought about Caleb's daughter, 7 years old, with a gap-toothed smile and dreams that changed weekly. She thought about how Caleb had said he didn't introduce people casually, how his trust was something he protected because his daughter's heart depended on it. She thought about showing up on Saturday, meeting this child, becoming part of their life while pretending to be someone she wasn't. It was wrong. She knew it was wrong, but she went anyway. Riverside Elementary smelled like every school ever built: floor wax, cafeteria mystery meat, and the particular chaos of hundreds of children contained in one building. Isabella stood in the parking lot wearing Target jeans and a sweater from H&M, watching families stream through the front doors carrying elaborate science projects, and the particular exhaustion of weekend parenting obligations. She was 15 minutes early, intentionally. She needed time to remember who Izzy was before she met the person whose opinion might matter most. Izzy! She turned to find Caleb jogging toward her, Mia's hand in his. The little girl from the lock screen photo was somehow more vivid in person, wild dark curls barely contained by a headband, pink glasses slightly crooked, wearing a shirt that declared "Science is my superpower" in glittery letters. You came! Mia bounced on her toes with the uncontained energy of 7-year-olds everywhere. Dad said you might not because you're probably busy, but you did. And now you can see my volcano. And it's the best volcano because it has 3 kinds of lava and— Mia, breathe, Caleb interrupted gently. He looked at Isabella with an apologetic smile. Sorry. She's been talking about this since Tuesday. I like your glasses, Isabella said to Mia. Pink's a good choice. Mia beamed like she'd been given the greatest compliment in human history. Thanks. Dad let me pick them out. He wanted me to get boring brown ones, but I said boring brown is for boring people, and I am not boring. No, Isabella agreed. You are definitely not boring. They walked into the school together, Mia chattering nonstop about volcanoes and plate tectonics, and how her friend Sophie's project was just a poster about plants, but her project actually did something. Caleb's hand brushed against Isabella's as they navigated the crowded hallway, and she found herself wanting to reach for it, which was dangerous and stupid and exactly the kind of thing that would make this all harder when the truth came out. Because it would come out, eventually. It always did. The gymnasium had been transformed into a makeshift science fair, folding tables arranged in rows, each one covered with projects ranging from elaborate to clearly done the night before. Mia dragged them to her table, where a papier-mâché volcano sat next to a poster explaining the different types of lava. See? Mia pointed to her carefully written labels. There's pahuehoi lava, which is smooth, and a'a lava, which is rough, and pillow lava, which forms underwater. And I made my volcano do all of them using different mixtures of baking soda and vinegar and food coloring and dish soap. That's incredible, Isabella said, genuinely impressed. How did you figure out the different mixtures? Science, Mia announced proudly, and YouTube, and Dad helping me measure stuff because I'm not good at fractions yet. Caleb ruffled her hair. You're great at fractions, you just get impatient. Other parents and children circulated through the gym, admiring projects and asking questions. Isabella watched Caleb with his daughter, the way he listened to her explanations like she was presenting groundbreaking research, the way he gently corrected her when she got details wrong without making her feel small, the way his whole face softened when she looked up at him for approval. This was love. Real, unconditional, selfless love. And Isabella was lying to both of them. You okay? Caleb asked quietly while Mia explained her project to another parent. You look a little pale. Just a headache, Isabella lied. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She was standing in an elementary school gym pretending to be someone she wasn't, while falling for a man who deserved the truth and bonding with a child who deserved better than this deception. Can Izzy come to the park after? Mia asked when the science fair ended. Please, Dad. Please, please, please. Caleb looked at Isabella, giving her an out. You don't have to. I know you probably have. I'd love to, Isabella heard herself say. The park was 3 blocks away, the kind of neighborhood playground with rusty swings and wood chips and equipment that had seen better decades. Mia immediately claimed the monkey bars, calling for them to watch as she demonstrated her skills. Caleb and Isabella sat on a bench that wobbled slightly, watching his daughter play with the same intensity she'd brought to her volcano presentation. She likes you, Caleb said. She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast. I like her too. Isabella meant it. Mia was brilliant and weird, and completely herself, in a way that made Isabella ache for the childhood she'd lost when her parents died and she'd been forced to grow up too fast. Can I ask you something? Caleb turned to face her. And you can tell me if it's too personal or too soon. Isabella's chest tightened. Okay. What are you looking for? With this. With us. He gestured between them. Because I need to know if you're just passing time, or if you're looking for something real. I can't. He glanced at Mia, who was now attempting to do a handstand. I can't bring people into her life who aren't going to stay. It's not fair to her. This was the moment, the perfect opportunity to tell the truth, to end this before anyone got hurt worse than they already would. But looking at him, at the hope and fear warring in his expression, at the vulnerability it took for a single father to risk his daughter's heart on someone he barely knew, Isabella couldn't find the words. And I'm looking for something real, she said instead, and that at least was true, even if everything else was fiction. Caleb's shoulders relaxed. Good, that's good. He smiled, that nervous, genuine smile that had caught her from the beginning. Because I know it's fast, and I know we're still figuring this out, but I haven't felt this way in a long time. Like maybe there's room in my life for something besides work and worry and making sure Mia has everything she needs. You're a good dad, Isabella said. The best kind. I'm a terrified dad who's making it up as I go and hoping I don't completely screw up this amazing kid. He laughed, but there was real fear underneath. Some days I worry she's going to realize what she's missing. A mom who wanted to stay? Dance lessons. Birthday parties at those fancy places with the bounce houses. I do my best, but my best is secondhand clothes and library books. And Caleb, Isabella stopped him. Look at her. They both watched Mia, who had abandoned the monkey bars to chase a butterfly with the kind of pure joy that adults forget is possible. She's not missing anything, Isabella continued. She has a father who loves her enough to be terrified of failing her. That's more than most kids get. He looked at her with something that felt dangerous, like gratitude mixed with affection, mixed with the beginning of something neither of them had said out loud yet. Thank you, he said quietly, for saying that, for being here, for giving me a chance, even though I showed up late and covered in grease and probably talked about my kid too much. You could never talk about her too much. Mia ran back over, breathless and grass-stained. I'm hungry. Can we get pizza? Can Izzy come? Please. They got pizza at a place called Mario's that had been in the neighborhood since before Caleb was born. Red vinyl booths, checkered tablecloths, a jukebox that only played songs from the 80s. Mia sat next to Isabella, chattering about her school and her friends, and her plans to be either a marine biologist or the president. She hadn't decided yet. Maybe you could be both, Isabella suggested. Mia considered this seriously. Can the president study ocean animals? I don't see why not. You could make laws protecting them. Yes! Mia bounced in her seat. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be the ocean president. Caleb laughed. Well, you've got my vote. They shared a large pizza that cost $18.99 and tasted better than any of the five-star restaurant meals Isabella had eaten in the past month. Mia drew pictures on her napkin, creating an elaborate scene of herself as president swimming with dolphins while signing important documents. Do you have a family, Izzy? Mia asked suddenly, her child's directness cutting through the easy moment. Isabella felt Caleb tense beside her. This was the question he'd asked too, the one she'd answered with partial truths about dead parents and being alone. No, she said, not anymore. That's sad. Mia reached over and patted Isabella's hand with the grave sympathy of someone who understood loss, even if she didn't remember it. But you can share ours. Right, Dad? Caleb's eyes met Isabella's across the table. Yeah, sweetheart, we can share. Something cracked in Isabella's chest. Not broke, cracked, like ice under pressure, revealing dark water underneath. She should have felt guilty, should have excused herself and called an end to this experiment before it caused real damage. But sitting in that pizza place with red vinyl booths and a jukebox playing Don't Stop Believin', while a 7-year-old offered to share her family, all Isabella felt was the terrifying realization that she didn't want to leave. She wanted this to be real, and that was more dangerous than any lie she'd ever told. The weeks that followed blurred together in a way that should have terrified Isabella, but instead felt like finally learning to breathe after years of holding her breath underwater. She found herself living two lives that ran parallel like train tracks, never quite touching but headed toward the same inevitable collision. Monday through Friday, she was Isabella Reed. She sat in boardrooms and made decisions that affected thousands of employees. She negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions. She gave interviews to Forbes and Bloomberg, her face carefully composed into the mask of a woman who had everything figured out. Her calendar was color-coded chaos. Investor meetings in blue, strategy sessions in green, media obligations in red. Jennifer managed it all with ruthless efficiency, scheduling her life in 15-minute increments like she was a commodity to be optimized rather than a person who might want to waste an afternoon doing nothing. But evenings and weekends belonged to Izzy, to Caleb, to Mia, to a life that felt more real than anything Isabella had built with her billions. You're distracted again, Marcus said, pulling her attention back to the present. They were in her office reviewing acquisition targets, and she'd been staring at her phone for the past 5 minutes. I'm listening, Isabella lied. Really? Then what did I just say about the Denver facility? She had no idea. Her phone had buzzed with a text from Caleb, a photo of Mia covered in paint after an art project gone wrong, captioned "Send help" or possibly a hazmat team, and everything else had faded to background noise. You were expressing concerns about the overhead costs, Isabella said, guessing. Marcus's expression told her she'd guessed wrong. I was saying we should approve the expansion. You've been pushing for it for 3 months. Right. Yes. Approve it. She set her phone face down on the desk, trying to focus. What else? Are you seeing someone? The question caught her off guard. Excuse me? You've been different lately, leaving early, canceling dinners, actually smiling at people in the elevator. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Either you're seeing someone or you've finally snapped under the pressure. I'm hoping it's the former. Isabella considered lying, then realized she was too tired to add another layer to the deception. I'm seeing someone. Is it serious? The answer should have been no. Should have been a casual dismissal of something that was just a test, just an experiment, just a way to prove what she'd already known about human nature and greed. "I don't know," she said instead. "Maybe." Marcus studied her with the same analytical precision he brought to financial projections. "Does he know who you are?" And there it was, the question she'd been avoiding for 6 weeks now. "It's complicated." "Uncomplicated." Marcus closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. "You're one of the most powerful women in the country. If someone's dating you without knowing that, they're either going to feel betrayed when they find out, or they're going to want something once they do. Either way, it ends badly." "Thank you for that optimistic assessment," Isabella said dryly. "I'm serious. I've seen this happen before. Wealthy people pretending to be normal, thinking they'll find authentic love by lying about who they are." He shook his head. "It's not noble, Isabella. It's manipulative, and it never works." The words hit harder than they should have because they were true. Every defense she'd built around this test, every rationalization about protecting herself from gold diggers and users, crumbled under the simple truth that she was manipulating someone who'd done nothing to deserve it. "I need to get back to work," Isabella said, opening her laptop in clear dismissal. Marcus stood but paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I hope he's worth it, whoever he is." After he left, Isabella sat in her office and stared at the city sprawling below her. Somewhere out there, Caleb was probably under a car, covered in grease, working the kind of job that destroyed your back and your knees, but kept a roof over your daughter's head. And Mia was probably in school, learning fractions and dreaming about being the ocean president. They had no idea that the woman they knew as Izzy, broke retail manager who split appetizers and took the bus, was actually staring down at them from a tower built on wealth they couldn't imagine. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Caleb. "Crisis averted. Mia is cleanish. Still bringing her over tonight? She's been talking about movie night since breakfast." Movie night. They'd started doing them every Thursday. Caleb would make popcorn. Mia would choose something animated, and the three of them would crowd onto his worn couch in his small apartment that smelled like old wood and whatever air freshener was on sale that week. Isabella had spent the first movie night cataloging everything that was wrong with the place. The crack in the ceiling, the radiator that clanged like it was possessed, the kitchen so small you could barely turn around, before realizing she was happier there than she'd been anywhere in years. "I'll be there at 7, she typed back. Leaving work early meant lying to Jennifer about a headache. Changing out of her designer suit meant keeping her Izzy clothes in a locker at a gym she'd joined specifically for this purpose. Driving her Honda instead of her Tesla meant parking her real car in a garage 3 blocks from her building and walking. Every step was a lie. Every choice was deception. But when Mia opened the door and threw her arms around Isabella's waist, shouting, "You're here! You're here! I picked the movie and Dad says it's my turn, but he doesn't like musicals, but I do, and you're gonna love it," the guilt evaporated into something that felt dangerously close to belonging. "Let her actually get inside before you tackle her," Caleb called from the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, his hair still damp from a shower, and smiled at Isabella in a way that made her forget her own name. Not Izzy, not Isabella, just a woman looking at a man who was genuinely happy to see her. "Sorry I'm late," Isabella said, though she wasn't. She'd timed her arrival for exactly 7 o'clock. "You're not late. Mia's just early for everything." Caleb took her coat, hanging it on a hook that was screwed slightly crooked into the wall. "I made popcorn. The real stuff, not microwave. And Mia insisted we needed candy, so there's probably enough sugar here to put us all in a coma." The apartment was small but clean, full of the kind of mismatched furniture that came from thrift stores and hand-me-downs. Mia's artwork covered the refrigerator, held up by magnets from places Caleb had probably never visited. A bookshelf overflowed with children's books and auto repair manuals. The couch had a blanket thrown over it to hide the worn patches. It was nothing like Isabella's penthouse with its designer furniture and original artwork and views that cost more per month than Caleb made in a year. It was better. "What are we watching?" Isabella asked, settling onto the couch while Mia bounced beside her. "Encanto," Mia announced. "It's about a girl whose family all has magic powers, but she doesn't. And everyone thinks she's not special, but she is special. She just doesn't know it yet." "Sounds familiar." Caleb murmured, sitting on Isabella's other side, close enough that their arms touched. They watched the movie in the kind of comfortable silence that comes from people who've stopped performing for each other. Mia sang along to every song, her off-key enthusiasm making up for what she lacked in pitch. Caleb's hand found Isabella's somewhere around the third musical number, their fingers intertwining like it was the most natural thing in the world. During a scene about family expectations and hidden pain, Isabella felt Caleb's thumb trace circles on her palm. The gesture was so small, so unconscious, that she almost missed it. But it was there, a quiet intimacy that had nothing to do with performance or testing or games. This was just connection, simple and real and terrifying. "You okay?" Caleb whispered. Isabella realized she was crying, not sobbing, just tears sliding silently down her face while an animated family sang about the pressure of living up to impossible standards. "Yeah," she whispered back. "The movie's it's good." He squeezed her hand, accepting the lie because he didn't know to look for deeper truth. After the movie, Mia's bedtime routine began. Teeth brushing was negotiated like a hostage situation. Pajamas were finally agreed upon after 3 changes. The bedtime story turned into 2 stories, then 3, until Caleb finally drew a line at 4. "Can Izzy read the last one?" Mia asked, clutching a worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are. Isabella looked at Caleb, who nodded. "If she wants to." She wanted to. Sitting on the edge of Mia's bed, reading about a boy who sailed away to an island of monsters and then came home to dinner waiting for him, Isabella felt something shift inside her chest. This little girl with wild curls and pink glasses had somehow wormed her way past every defense Isabella had built. "Why did Max go home?" Mia asked when the story ended. "The wild things loved him. He was their king." "Because being loved isn't the same as being home," Isabella said, "and sometimes the people who love you most are the ones waiting for you with dinner still warm." Mia considered this seriously. "Is that why you come here? Because it feels like home?" The question was innocent, just a child trying to understand the adults in her life, but it cut straight through every lie Isabella had told herself about what this was and what it meant. "Yeah," Isabella said softly. "That's why." "Good." Mia snuggled deeper into her blankets. "Because you're my favorite person who's not Dad." Isabella's throat tightened. "You're one of my favorite people, too." After Mia fell asleep, Isabella found Caleb washing dishes in the tiny kitchen. She picked up a towel and started drying without asking, falling into a rhythm they'd developed over weeks of Thursday nights and Sunday brunches and random Tuesday evenings when Caleb called because Mia was asking for her. "She loves you," Caleb said. "Just so you know. I can tell." "I love her too." Isabella set a plate in the cabinet. "She's an incredible kid. She asked me yesterday if you were going to be her mom." Caleb's hand stilled in the soapy water. "I told her it was too early for those kinds of questions, but honestly, I've been wondering the same thing." Isabella froze, dish towel in hand. "Caleb, I know it's fast." He turned to face her, his hands dripping water onto the floor. "I know we've only been doing this for 6 weeks, but I can't remember the last time I felt like this. Like maybe my life could be about more than just surviving until the next paycheck. Like maybe there's room for something good." He stepped closer, cupping her face in hands that smelled like dish soap and hard work. "I'm falling for you, Izzy. I need you to know that. And if that's too much, if you're not feeling the same way, I need you to tell me now before Mia gets any more attached. Before I get any more attached." This was it. The moment where she should tell him the truth. Where she should explain that Izzy didn't exist, that the woman he was falling for was a carefully constructed lie designed to test him like a science experiment. But looking into his eyes, brown and honest and full of hope that someone like him probably shouldn't have after being abandoned with a baby and spending 7 years doing everything alone, Isabella couldn't find the words. "I'm falling for you too," she said instead. And when he kissed her, soft and careful and full of promise, she let herself believe the lie might somehow become truth. They ended up on the couch, the TV playing something neither of them was watching. Caleb's arm was around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Tell me something true," Caleb said into the comfortable silence. Something you don't tell other people. Isabella's pulse quickened. What do you mean? Just something real. Something that matters to you. His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. I feel like I know surface things about you, but I want to know the deep stuff. The things that keep you up at night or make you laugh or scare you. She should have redirected, should have turned the question back on him or made a joke or done anything except what she did. I'm lonely, Isabella heard herself say. Even when I'm surrounded by people, I'm lonely. I have been since my parents died, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to let people close enough to make it better because I'm terrified they'll just leave anyway, and then I'll be even more alone than I was before. The words came from somewhere deeper than Izzy. They came from Isabella, the real one, the one she'd been hiding behind tests and money and walls built so high she'd forgotten what the view looked like without them. Caleb's arms tightened around her. You're not alone anymore. I'm right here. What if you leave? What if I don't? He tilted her chin up to meet his eyes. What if instead of waiting for me to fail whatever test you're running in your head, you just trust that maybe I'm exactly who I seem to be? A guy who works too much, worries about his kid, and thinks he got incredibly lucky when you walked into that diner. Isabella's eyes burned. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, but we can figure it out together. He kissed her forehead. That's what people do, right? When they care about each other, they figure it out. She stayed until almost midnight, which became a pattern. Thursday movie nights turned into Saturday morning pancakes. Sunday afternoon walks turned into helping Mia with homework. Tuesday evenings materialized because Caleb's shift ended early, and Mia wanted to show Izzy her new library book. Isabella's calendar became a war zone between two lives. Jennifer started asking pointed questions about all the evening appointments that weren't on the official schedule. Marcus mentioned twice that she seemed distracted during important meetings. The board noticed she'd started leaving early on Thursdays, but Isabella couldn't stop. Every moment with Caleb and Mia felt like stealing something she wasn't supposed to have, and she'd never wanted anything more. 3 months in, Caleb's car broke down. Not the kind of breakdown you fix with a new part and an afternoon. The kind that meant the transmission was shot and replacing it cost more than the car was worth. I can take the bus to work, he told Isabella when she came over to find him under the hood, covered in grease and frustration. It's not a big deal. How will you get Mia to school? She can walk. It's only 6 blocks. In February, when it's 20 degrees outside? Caleb straightened, wiping his hands on a rag that was beyond saving. What am I supposed to do, Izzy? A new transmission costs $3,000. I don't have $3,000. I have rent and utilities and groceries and Mia's asthma medication, and at the end of the month, there's nothing left. The words came out sharp with the kind of desperation that came from years of mathematics that never added up right. So yeah, she'll walk to school, and I'll take the bus, and we'll figure it out because that's what we always do. Isabella's first instinct was to fix it. She could write a check for $3,000 without noticing the money was gone, could buy him a new car, could solve this problem with the same ease she solved every other problem, by throwing money at it until it disappeared. But Izzy couldn't do that. Izzy was broke too. I have some savings, she offered carefully. I could loan you. No. Caleb's response was immediate and firm. Absolutely not. It's just a loan. You could pay me back whenever. I said no, Izzy. He softened his tone, but not his position. I appreciate it, really, but I'm not taking money from you. That's not how this works. How what works? Us. He gestured between them. I'm not with you because you can fix my problems. I'm with you because when I'm with you, the problems feel less heavy. There's a difference. The word should have made her feel better. Should have proved he was exactly who she'd hoped to find. Someone who didn't care about money, who valued connection over currency. Instead, they made her feel worse. Because while Caleb was refusing her help on principle, Isabella could have solved his entire financial situation with the equivalent of what she spent on a single business lunch. And she was choosing not to because maintaining her lie mattered more than making his life easier. What kind of person did that make her? I'm sorry, she said. I just wanted to help. I know. He pulled her into a hug that smelled like motor oil and sweat. And I love that about you. But I've been taking care of me and Mia for 7 years. We'll figure this out too. That night, Isabella couldn't sleep. She lay in her penthouse bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about Caleb taking 3 buses to get to work while his daughter walked to school in the freezing cold. She thought about Mia's pink glasses that were a year out of prescription because new ones weren't in the budget. She thought about the way Caleb's face tightened every time he checked his bank balance. She thought about the fact that she could fix all of it with a phone call but wouldn't because she was too busy playing pretend in their lives. At 3 in the morning, she made a decision. She called her accountant. "I need you to do something," she said when he answered, his voice rough with sleep. "And I need you to not ask questions." "Isabella? It's 3 a.m. I'm aware. I need you to set up an anonymous payment. $3,000 to Morrison's Auto Shop in Caleb Moore's name. Make it look like he won something, a raffle or a contest or whatever makes sense." "Can you do that?" Silence on the other end, then, "Are you okay? Can you do it or not?" "I can do it, but Isabella—" "No questions, please." The payment went through Friday. By Saturday, Caleb's car was fixed. He called Isabella that night, his voice full of confused excitement. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "The shop did this customer appreciation raffle thing, and apparently I won. $3,000 toward repairs. Can you believe that? What are the odds?" Isabella pressed her hand against her chest, where guilt and relief warred for dominance. "That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I know it's stupid, but it feels like maybe things are looking up, like maybe I'm not always going to be drowning, like maybe good things can happen to people like me." People like me. The words echoed after they hung up. Caleb thought he was the kind of person good things didn't happen to, and Isabella was perpetuating that belief while lying to him from a tower made of the exact kind of good fortune he couldn't imagine. The guilt began eating her alive. It showed up in strange moments. When Mia talked about the field trip, she couldn't go on because it cost $40. When Caleb apologized for their dates being cheap because anything expensive made him anxious. When she watched him calculate tips down to the percentage point because every dollar mattered. Meanwhile, Isabella was wearing a thrift store sweater over a body that had been maintained by personal trainers who cost $500 an hour. She was pretending to budget while her actual checking account had a balance that would make Caleb weep. "You're different lately," Caleb said one Sunday morning while they made pancakes in his tiny kitchen. Mia was still asleep, and the apartment held that special quiet of early mornings and borrowed intimacy. "Distant. I'm just tired." Isabella flipped a pancake that was definitely not tired, just drowning in guilt. "Is it work? Because you've seemed stressed." If he only knew. Her actual work was fine, better than fine. Reed Tech had just closed a deal that would increase quarterly revenue by 40%, but she was stressed about managing 2 complete lives that were inevitably going to collide and destroy everything she'd built with him. "It's nothing," she lied. Caleb turned off the stove and turned to face her fully. "Izzy, talk to me. What's going on?" This was it, another perfect opportunity to come clean, to tell him the truth before the lie grew any bigger. "I'm scared," Isabella said instead, which was also true, just not in the way he'd think. "I'm scared I'm going to mess this up. Us, you and Mia. I'm scared I'm not enough." His expression softened. "Hey, come here." He pulled her into his arms, and she let herself be held by a man she was actively deceiving. "You're more than enough. You're everything." The words should have felt good, should have been exactly what she wanted to hear. Instead, they felt like a knife twisting deeper. Because Isabella Reed was everything. She had power and wealth and influence that shaped industries. But Izzy had him, had Mia, had Sunday morning pancakes and Thursday movie nights, and a life that felt real, and she was about to lose it all. She just didn't know it yet. The truth came for Isabella on a Tuesday afternoon in the form of a photographer's lens and a tech blog's afternoon traffic quota. She'd been careful. So careful. 4 months of living a double life, and she'd managed to keep them separate, maintaining the fiction through meticulous planning and constant vigilance. She parked her real car blocks away from anywhere Caleb might be. She never wore the same clothes in both lives. She'd even stopped wearing her signature perfume, the one that cost $800 an ounce, when she was being Izzy. But she'd gotten comfortable, and comfortable was where mistakes lived. The board meeting ran long that Tuesday. Some crisis about a competitor's patent infringement that required her immediate attention and decisive action. By the time she escaped the conference room, it was already 6:15 and she'd promised to meet Caleb and Mia at the park by 6:30. Isabella made a choice. Just this once, she'd go straight from work. She'd change in the car, swap her designer suit for Izzy's clothes, and no one would be the wiser. She was 3 blocks from the park, sitting in her Tesla at a red light when the photographer spotted her. He was probably just looking for content. Some freelancer hoping to catch candid shots of local business leaders for stock photo sites or lifestyle blogs. Isabella Reed in her Tesla, checking her phone at a stoplight, wasn't exactly groundbreaking journalism, but it was enough. The light turned green. Isabella drove to the parking garage where she kept the Honda, changed clothes in the front seat with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this too many times, and jogged to the park where Mia was already on the swings, pumping her legs with determination while Caleb pushed her higher. "You made it!" Mia shouted when she spotted Isabella. "Dad said you might be late because of work, but you're not late. You're exactly on time." "Wouldn't miss it," Isabella said, slightly breathless from running. She kissed Caleb hello, a quick press of lips that had become routine over 4 months of pretending this was real. "Rough day?" he asked, noticing something in her expression. "Just long." She watched Mia swing higher, her wild curls flying behind her like a banner. But better now. They stayed at the park until the streetlights came on, and Mia's energy finally depleted. Walked to the corner store where Caleb bought ice cream bars that were 2 for $5, and they ate them on the walk back to his apartment. Mia chattered about her upcoming birthday party. Just a few friends, nothing fancy, at the apartment because renting a place was too expensive, and how she wanted a cake shaped like a dolphin. "I'll make it work," Caleb promised. "Maybe not exactly dolphin-shaped, but definitely dolphin-inspired." "Can Izzy help?" Mia grabbed Isabella's hand, sticky from melted ice cream. "She's good at art stuff. Remember when she drew those planets for my science homework?" "If Izzy wants to spend her weekend wrestling with fondant and food coloring, she's welcome to," Caleb said, smiling at Isabella over his daughter's head. "But I'm not going to voluntarily subject her to that kind of torture." "I'd love to help," Isabella said, and meant it. Even though she'd never made a cake in her life, her personal chef handled all of that. She wanted to be there for Mia's 8th birthday, wanted to be part of this small celebration that would cost less than the flower arrangement in Isabella's office lobby. That was Tuesday evening, simple and perfect and completely normal. Wednesday morning, the world exploded. Isabella was in her office reviewing quarterly projections when Jennifer burst through the door without knocking, her face pale, and her tablet already extended like a weapon. "You need to see this." The headline read, "Billionaire CEO Isabella Reed, Secret Life of Poverty Tourism?" Below it, a split-screen image. On the left, Isabella in her boardroom, designer suit sharp enough to cut, commanding a room full of executives. On the right, a grainy photo of her climbing out of her Tesla at that stoplight, clearly identifiable despite the poor quality. The article was worse than the headline suggested. Sources close to Reed confirm she's been engaging in what some are calling poverty tourism, creating fake dating profiles where she pretends to be a low-income retail worker. Multiple men have come forward with stories of dates where Reed wore thrift store clothes and claimed financial hardship while secretly worth an estimated $4.2 billion. The motivation for these deceptions remains unclear, though some speculate it's either a twisted social experiment or an attempt to avoid gold diggers through manipulation rather than honesty. Yet Isabella's hand shook as she scrolled through the article. They'd found 3 of the 27 men who'd failed her test. All 3 were quoted anonymously, describing dates with a woman who'd called herself Izzy or Liz or Beth, who'd worn cheap clothes and split appetizers and then disappeared when they'd shown their true colors around money. The article painted her as a villain, a bored billionaire playing games with real people's lives for entertainment, and the comments were brutal. "This is disgusting. These men trusted her and she was treating them like lab rats." Rich people are so disconnected from reality, they think poverty is a costume they can put on and take off. I hope someone sues her for emotional distress. She's a sociopath. Who does this to people? The article didn't mention Caleb by name, didn't have any photos of them together, but it mentioned she was currently involved with someone who reportedly believes her fabricated identity. Isabella felt the floor drop out from beneath her. We need to get ahead of this, Jennifer said, already moving into crisis management mode. I've got PR drafting 3 different statements depending on which direction you want to take this. We can deny, deflect, or... Where did they get the information? Isabella's voice came out hollow. About the dates? About the profiles? We're not sure yet. Could be someone from the app. Could be one of the men talking to reporters. Could be... Find out. Isabella stood abruptly. I need to know where this came from and who else they've talked to. Isabella, the priority right now is damage control. Your reputation. I don't care about my reputation. The words came out sharper than intended. I need to know if they know about Caleb. Jennifer's carefully maintained professional expression cracked slightly. Is that the person you've been seeing? The one you've been lying to about who you are? Don't, Isabella held up a hand. Just find out what the reporters know and who they've talked to, please. After Jennifer left, Isabella locked her office door and called Caleb's number with shaking hands. It went to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. A text. Call me. Please. It's important. 3 dots appeared, showing he was typing, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I know, 2 words. That's all it took for 4 months of careful construction to come crashing down. Isabella grabbed her keys and ran. The drive to Caleb's apartment took 17 minutes but felt like hours. She rehearsed speeches in her head, explanations that sounded reasonable in the abstract but hollow when she tried to put them into words. How do you explain to someone that you lied about everything because you were testing them? That you built an entire fake life because you wanted to see if they'd pass some arbitrary examination of their character? She took the stairs to his 3rd-floor apartment 2 at a time and knocked on the door hard enough to hurt her knuckles. Caleb answered. His face was a landscape of betrayal. Don't, he said before she could speak. Don't come in here with excuses or explanations or whatever speech you've been practicing. Caleb, please. My daughter is in the next room, and she's been crying for the past hour because her friend Sophie's mom showed her a picture of Miss Izzy on the internet, except it wasn't Izzy. It was some billionaire CEO named Isabella Reed. His voice was controlled rage, the kind that came from trying not to yell with a child in the apartment. Mia asked me if it was the same person, if you were really that lady in the expensive suit, and I had to tell my 8-year-old daughter that yes, the woman she'd been calling her best friend, the woman I'd let into our lives, had been lying to both of us for 4 months. Isabella felt tears streaming down her face. I wanted to tell you, so many times I wanted to, but you didn't. Caleb stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind him so Mia wouldn't hear. You had hundreds of opportunities to tell me the truth. Every Thursday night when we watched movies, every Sunday morning when we made pancakes, every single time I told you something real about my life while you were feeding me fiction about yours. It wasn't all fiction, Isabella's voice broke. My feelings for you, for Mia, those were real. Everything else might have been a lie, but that was real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? Caleb laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're a billionaire, Isabella. You own a tech empire. You probably have assistants who have assistants. And you spent 4 months pretending to be broke, watching me stress about bills and car repairs and whether I could afford my daughter's field trip. Do you have any idea how that feels? Knowing you were sitting there, watching me struggle with problems you could have solved with pocket change, and you just let me suffer through it. I did help. The raffle for your car. That was you? His expression shifted from betrayal to something worse, disgust. You set up a fake raffle to give me money without me knowing? That's not helping, Isabella. That's manipulation. That's treating me like a charity case in your little social experiment. It wasn't an experiment. The words sounded weak even to her own ears. I was trying to protect myself. From what? From me? From people like me? Caleb's voice rose slightly before he caught himself and lowered it again. Let me guess. You got hurt before. Some guy wanted you for your money, instead of your sparkling personality. So you decided the solution was to lie to everyone you dated? To create this elaborate test where we had to prove ourselves worthy without even knowing we were being tested? Isabella couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself because he was right about all of it. Here's what kills me, Caleb continued, his voice dropping to something that hurt worse than anger. I fell in love with you, not with your money or your power or whatever the hell else you thought I was after. I fell in love with the woman who read bedtime stories to my daughter and helped with homework and ate terrible diner food without complaining. But that woman doesn't exist, does she? She was just a character you were playing. She does exist. Isabella reached for his hand, but he pulled away. That's the most real I've ever been with anyone. When I was with you and Mia, I wasn't performing or calculating or protecting myself. I was just me. No. Caleb shook his head. You were whoever you thought I wanted you to be, and that's not the same thing. The apartment door opened. Mia stood there, her face blotchy from crying, pink glasses slightly fogged. Is Izzy leaving? Her voice was so small it broke something fundamental in Isabella's chest. Caleb knelt down to his daughter's level. Yeah, sweetheart, she's leaving. Because she lied? Mia looked at Isabella with the kind of direct honesty that children specialized in. Sophie's mom said you lied about who you are, that you're really rich and you were pretending to be poor. Why would you do that? Out of the mouths of children came the questions that mattered most, not the complicated adult rationalizations about protection and testing and fear. Just the simple, devastating truth. Why would you do that? Because I was scared, Isabella said, crouching down to meet Mia's eyes. I was scared that people would only like me for my money instead of who I really am. So I pretended to be someone else to see if people could love me without it. But that's still lying. Mia's logic was unassailable. My teacher says lying is wrong even if you're scared. You're supposed to tell the truth and trust people to be good. Your teacher is right. Isabella wiped tears from her cheeks. I should have told the truth, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I lied to you. Are you still going to come to my birthday party? Mia asked. It's in 12 days and we're making a dolphin cake and you promised to help. Isabella looked at Caleb, whose expression was closed off in a way she'd never seen before. I don't think I can, sweetheart, Isabella said. I don't think your dad wants me around anymore. But I want you around, Mia's voice climbed toward a wail. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you lied. I just want you to be here. Mia, Caleb's voice was gentle but firm. Go back inside, please. But Dad, inside now. Mia looked between them, her 8-year-old mind trying to process adult complications that shouldn't have been her burden to carry. Then she turned and ran back into the apartment, leaving the door open behind her. Caleb stood slowly, suddenly looking older than 34. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with work or single parenthood, and everything to do with the specific exhaustion of having your trust shattered by someone you'd let yourself believe in. I need you to leave, he said quietly. I need you to walk away and let me figure out how to explain this to my daughter. How to help her understand that sometimes people we care about hurt us, even when they don't mean to. Caleb, please. Can't we talk about this? Can't we? What's there to talk about, Isabella? Her real name sounded wrong in his mouth, foreign. You want me to understand why you lied? Fine. I understand. You're rich and powerful and you've been hurt before. But understanding why you did it doesn't change the fact that you did. It doesn't change that you looked me in the eye every single day for 4 months and chose the lie over the truth. I was going to tell you. The words sounded pathetic even as she said them. I just needed more time. Time for what? To run more tests, to make sure I passed whatever other examinations you had planned. Caleb's laugh was bitter. Here's the thing you didn't consider in your little experiment. Real relationships are built on honesty, on showing up as yourself and trusting the other person to do the same. You can't build something real on a foundation of lies, no matter how good your intentions were. So that's it? Isabella's voice broke. You're just going to end this? Not even give me a chance to make it right? Make it right how? By telling me more truths I can't verify? By promising you're done lying even though I have no way to believe you? He shook his head. You broke something here, Isabella, something I'm not sure can be fixed. I love you. The words tumbled out desperate and raw. I love you and I love Mia, and I know I screwed up, but please don't throw away everything we built because I was too scared to be vulnerable. You want to talk about vulnerability? Caleb's voice hardened. I was vulnerable from day one. I told you about Mia's mom leaving, about my money problems, about every fear and insecurity I had. I gave you everything while you were carefully calculating how much of yourself to reveal. So don't talk to me about being scared of vulnerability when you never actually tried it. The words hit like physical blows, each one landing with the precision of truth. What about Mia? Isabella asked, grasping at anything. You're just going to let her lose someone she cares about? Don't. Caleb's eyes flashed with real anger for the first time. Don't you dare use my daughter as leverage. You should have thought about Mia before you decided to play your games. You should have thought about what it would do to her when the truth came out. I didn't think he... No, you didn't. He stepped back toward his door. And that's the problem. You were so busy protecting yourself that you didn't think about who you might be hurting. Well, congratulations. You found a good guy. I passed your test. I treated you well despite thinking you were broke. I fell in love with who I thought you were. And now you get to live with the fact that you destroyed it anyway. He went inside and closed the door. Isabella stood in the hallway, staring at the scuffed paint and the crooked number 3C, listening to the muffled sound of Mia crying and Caleb's low voice trying to comfort her. This was her fault. All of it. She'd spent 3 years conducting her experiment, testing 28 men to see if any of them could love her without her money. She'd finally found one who could, and she'd sabotaged it with the very lies she'd created to protect herself. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. Each floor was another layer of realization about what she'd done. By the time she reached the lobby, Isabella understood with complete clarity that she hadn't been protecting herself from gold diggers. She'd been protecting herself from intimacy, from vulnerability, from the terrifying possibility that someone might see all of her, flaws and fears and wealth included, and choose to stay anyway. The paparazzi were waiting outside her building. Cameras flashed as she pulled up, reporters shouting questions about her poverty tourism and dating deceptions. Isabella pushed through them without comment, took the elevator to the 40th floor, and walked into her penthouse that suddenly felt like a very expensive prison. The city glittered below her, millions of lives playing out in millions of windows, people connecting and disconnecting, building and destroying, loving and losing. She'd built an empire, accumulated billions, commanded respect, and wielded power that could shape industries, but she couldn't figure out how to love someone honestly. Her phone buzzed with notifications, messages from Jennifer about the PR crisis, emails from board members concerned about the publicity, text messages from friends she hadn't spoken to in months suddenly interested in her drama. Nothing from Caleb, nothing from the person who mattered. Isabella poured herself wine from the $400 bottle and stared at her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The woman looking back at her was Isabella Reed, billionaire, CEO, woman who had everything except the only things that mattered. Somewhere across the city, in a third-floor apartment with a crooked door number and a radiator that clanged, a 7-year-old girl was crying herself to sleep because the person she'd trusted had lied to her. And a man who dared to open his heart after years of protecting it was learning once again that vulnerability was just another word for getting hurt. Isabella had designed the perfect test to protect herself from people who wanted her money. She'd never considered that the person she really needed protection from was herself. The headlines got worse over the next 3 days. Someone leaked more details, specific dates, specific men, specific lies she'd told. Reed Tech's stock took a minor hit as investors questioned her judgment. The board called an emergency meeting to discuss reputation management strategies. But Isabella barely noticed. She was too busy replaying every moment with Caleb and Mia, cataloging every lie and every missed opportunity to tell the truth. She'd had hundreds of chances, thousands, and she'd chosen deception every single time. On Friday, a letter arrived at her office, hand-delivered by someone who'd been paid to make sure it reached her personally. Isabella recognized the handwriting on the envelope immediately. Mia's. Inside was a drawing, 2 stick figures, one tall with wild curls, one shorter wearing pink glasses, holding hands under a rainbow. At the top, in careful child printing, "I miss you, Izzy. Love, Mia." Isabella broke. Not the careful, controlled tears she'd shed in Caleb's hallway, not the quiet crying she'd done alone in her penthouse. This was the kind of sobbing that came from somewhere deep and broken, the kind that hurt your chest and made it hard to breathe. She'd lost them, both of them, and it was entirely her own fault. Jennifer found her an hour later, still clutching the drawing, makeup ruined, the powerful CEO facade completely shattered. "I need you to do something for me," Isabella said, her voice rough from crying. "Anything. I need you to find out if Caleb Moore will see me, not as Isabella Reed, not as his ex-girlfriend, as someone who owes him and his daughter a real apology." Jennifer studied her for a long moment. "Are you sure that's a good idea? Given the current media situation." "I don't care about the media situation." Isabella stood, wiping her face. "I care about a 7-year-old girl who trusted me and a man who gave me everything I said I wanted, and I need to at least try to make this right. And if he says no?" Isabella looked at the drawing in her hands, Mia's innocent artwork capturing what they'd been before she'd destroyed it. "Then at least I tried." Jennifer came back with an answer 24 hours later, and it wasn't the one Isabella wanted to hear. He said no. Very politely, but definitively no. Jennifer set her tablet down on Isabella's desk. His exact words were, "Tell Ms. Reed that I appreciate the gesture, but I need to focus on my daughter right now. Perhaps in time, but not today." Isabella stared at the mahogany surface of her desk, seeing her distorted reflection in the polished wood. "Did you talk to him directly?" "I sent a message through the auto shop where he works. The owner called me back with Caleb's response." Jennifer hesitated. "Isabella, maybe you should respect his boundaries. Give him space to process everything." "Space?" Isabella tested the word like it was foreign. How much space does someone need after you've destroyed their ability to trust? "I don't know, but pushing him right now isn't going to help." Jennifer was right. Isabella knew she was right. But the drawing from Mia was still in her desk drawer, and every time she looked at it, something cracked a little deeper in her chest. The weekend stretched endlessly. Saturday morning, Isabella woke up and realized she had nowhere to be. No pancakes at Caleb's apartment, no playground visits with Mia, no movie nights or homework help or simple conversations about nothing important, just her penthouse and her billions and the crushing weight of her own choices. She tried to work, opened her laptop and stared at quarterly reports until the numbers blurred into meaningless shapes. She tried to read, poured herself into novels about other people's problems until the words stopped making sense. She tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mia's tear-streaked face and Caleb's expression of betrayal. Sunday afternoon, her phone rang. Unknown number. Isabella answered it like a lifeline. "Hello? Miss Reed?" A child's voice. Not Mia's. Older, maybe 10 or 11. Or, "Yes? Please hold for an important call." Then Mia's voice came through, slightly muffled like she was cupping her hand over the phone. "Is this her? Did it work?" "I told you it would work," the other voice said. "Adults always answer when it sounds official." "Mia?" Isabella sat up straight. "Is that you?" A pause. Some whispered consultation. Then Mia came on clearly. "Hi, Izzy. Isabella. I don't know what to call you now." "Izzy is fine." Isabella's throat tightened. "Are you okay? Does your dad know you're calling me?" "Dad's at work. Sophie's mom is watching me, but she's on the phone with her boyfriend, so she's not really watching me." Mia said this matter-of-factly, like she'd explained it many times before. "I needed to talk to you." "I'm glad you called. I've been wanting to talk to you too." "Why did you lie?" The question came out direct and devastating. Not the adult answer, the real answer. "Why did you pretend to be poor when you're actually really rich?" Isabella closed her eyes. She'd practiced corporate apologies dozens of times, had consultants coach her on crisis communication and reputation management, but none of that prepared her for explaining herself to an 8-year-old who deserved nothing but honesty. "Because I was scared," Isabella said. "A long time ago, someone pretended to love me, but they really just loved my money, and it hurt so badly that I decided to never let it happen again. So I started pretending to be poor to see if people would still like me without it. That's dumb, Mia said bluntly. You're right, it was dumb. If you wanted people to like you for real, you should have just been yourself. The 8-year-old logic was irrefutable. That's what my dad always tells me. He says the people who matter will love you for who you are, and the people who don't matter. Your dad is a very smart man. I know. Mia's voice got smaller. He's been really sad since you left. He pretends he's okay, but I hear him at night when he thinks I'm asleep. He doesn't cry loud like I do. He cries quiet, like he doesn't want anyone to know. The image of Caleb crying alone in his small apartment while his daughter pretended to sleep broke something in Isabella that she didn't know could break any further. I'm sorry, Mia. I'm so sorry that I hurt him, that I hurt both of you. My birthday is in 8 days, Mia said. I asked Dad if you could still come, and he said no. But I think he said no because he's sad and angry, not because he really wants you to stay away forever. Sometimes when people are hurt, they need time before they can forgive, Isabella said gently. Your dad has every right to be angry with me. But do you still love him? The question hit like a physical blow. Yes, I love him very much. And do you love me? So much it hurts. Then you have to fix it. Mia spoke with the absolute certainty of a child who believed all problems had solutions if you just tried hard enough. You have to tell Dad the truth about everything and say sorry the right way and make him understand that you're not going to lie anymore. I don't think it's that simple, sweetheart. It is that simple, Mia insisted. Grown-ups just make things complicated because they're scared. But you already did the scary thing. You already told him you lied. So now you just have to do the other scary thing and tell him you're sorry and you want to fix it. Before Isabella could respond, she heard an adult voice in the background. Mia, who are you talking to? I have to go, Mia whispered urgently. But please come to my birthday party, please. Even if Dad says no, just come. It's next Saturday at 2 o'clock at our apartment. I want you there. Mia, the line went dead. Isabella sat holding her phone, staring at the city spread out below her 40th floor windows. An 8-year-old child had just given her better advice than her entire team of consultants and PR specialists. Tell the truth. Say sorry the right way. Stop being scared. It sounded impossibly simple. Monday morning, Isabella walked into the Reed Tech building and straight to the executive floor. Jennifer looked up in surprise as Isabella passed her desk without stopping. Clear my calendar for today, Isabella said. All of it. But you have the board meeting at 10 and the investor call at... Cancel them. Reschedule them. I don't care. Isabella stopped at her office door. Actually, schedule a press conference for this afternoon, 4 o'clock. Jennifer's eyes widened. A press conference? About what? About the truth. The conference room filled quickly once word got out that Isabella Reed was making a statement about the dating scandal. Reporters crowded in with cameras and recorders smelling blood in the water. The board members stood in the back, looking nervous. Jennifer had her tablet ready, probably prepared to do damage control on whatever Isabella was about to say. Isabella stood at the podium and looked out at the sea of faces waiting for her to defend herself, or deny everything, or spin the story in some corporate-approved direction. Instead, she told the truth. My name is Isabella Reed, and everything you've read about me in the past week is true. I did create fake dating profiles. I did pretend to be poor. I did lie to multiple men about who I was and what I did for a living. The articles called it poverty tourism and manipulation, and they were right. That's exactly what it was. A murmur ran through the crowd. This wasn't the carefully crafted apology they'd expected. I'm not here to make excuses or ask for sympathy, Isabella continued. I'm here to take responsibility for my actions and to explain, not justify, but explain why I did what I did. She took a breath, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. When I was 26, I was engaged to someone I thought loved me. After my parents died, I inherited their company and a substantial fortune. My fiancé knew about the inheritance, but I didn't realize until after we were engaged that the money was all he'd ever wanted. When I found out, it didn't just break my heart. It broke something fundamental in my ability to trust. Isabella gripped the podium. So I decided to protect myself the only way I knew how, by hiding who I was, by creating a version of myself that had nothing anyone could want except me. And I told myself this was smart, that I was conducting a social experiment to find genuine connection. But the truth is, I was just scared. And I let that fear turn me into exactly the kind of person I was trying to avoid, someone who manipulates others for their own benefit. A reporter raised her hand. Ms. Reed, are you currently in a relationship with someone you lied to? I was. Isabella's voice cracked slightly. I met someone extraordinary, a single father who worked himself to exhaustion to provide for his daughter. A man who showed me more kindness and honesty in 4 months than I'd experienced in years, and I repaid that kindness by lying to him every single day we were together. Why didn't you tell him the truth? Because I was afraid. Isabella met the reporter's eyes. I was afraid that if he knew who I really was, he'd want me for my money instead of for me. But what I didn't realize, what I was too scared to see, was that by lying to him, I never gave him the chance to love the real me. I loved him for his honesty, while being fundamentally dishonest myself. Do you regret it? Another reporter asked. Every second of every day, Isabella said quietly. I regret the lies. I regret the manipulation. I regret not being brave enough to trust him with the truth. And most of all, I regret hurting his daughter, who deserves so much better than what I gave her. What do you want people to know about this situation? Isabella looked directly into the camera. I want them to know that money doesn't protect you from being hurt. It doesn't make you smarter or better or more deserving of love. If anything, it can make you worse. It can make you think you're entitled to test people, to treat relationships like business transactions where you maintain control by withholding information. I was wrong. What I did was wrong. And I'm sorry. She stepped back from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions, and walked out of the conference room. The board members would be furious. The PR team would be scrambling. The stock might take another hit. Isabella didn't care. For the first time in 3 years, she'd told the complete, unvarnished truth. And it felt like finally setting down a weight she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. The press conference went viral within hours, not because Isabella had denied anything or spun the story, but because she hadn't. People weren't used to seeing billionaires take actual responsibility for their actions without a team of lawyers sanitizing every word. The comments were mixed. Some people appreciated her honesty. Others said it was too little too late. A few pointed out that a public apology meant nothing if she wasn't apologizing to the person who actually deserved it. They were right about that too. Tuesday evening, Isabella drove to Caleb's apartment building and sat in her car, her real car this time, no more Honda disguises, watching the windows on the 3rd floor. She could see shadows moving behind the curtains. Caleb getting home from work. Mia probably doing homework at the kitchen table that wobbled slightly on uneven legs. She didn't go up, didn't knock on the door, or force a confrontation he'd explicitly said he didn't want. She just sat there, watching the life she'd briefly been part of continue without her. Wednesday, a package arrived at Reed Tech headquarters, addressed to Isabella personally. Inside was a children's drawing, the same one Mia had sent before, the 2 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. But this one had new additions. More stick figures added in different colored markers, a dolphin in the corner. The words, "Please come to my party," written in careful letters along the bottom. A sticky note was attached in adult handwriting that Isabella recognized as Caleb's. She made me mail this. I told her you probably wouldn't come. She insisted anyway. For what it's worth, I watched your press conference. It doesn't change what happened, but I appreciate you telling the truth. Isabella held the drawing like it was made of spun glass, reading Caleb's note over and over. It doesn't change what happened. No, it didn't, but it was something. The smallest crack in the wall he'd built between them. Thursday night, Isabella couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Mia's birthday party on Saturday, about showing up uninvited after Caleb had asked for space, about the difference between respecting someone's boundaries and fighting for something that mattered. At 2 a.m, she called the only person she trusted to tell her the truth. "This better be important," Marcus answered, his voice rough with sleep. "It's 2 a.m. If someone tells you they need space, but their 8-year-old daughter invites you to her birthday party anyway, do you go? A long silence. Then, is this about the guy? The one you've been lying to? Yes. Does he know you're considering showing up? He knows his daughter invited me. He seems to think I won't come. Another pause. Do you love him? For real, not as part of some test or experiment. Do you actually love him? Isabella looked at her reflection in the dark window. Yes. Then go. Marcus's voice lost sleep-roughened edge. Go and apologize. Properly this time, not to the press or the board or the public. Apologize to him and his daughter like they're the only people in the world who matter. Because right now, they are. What if he tells me to leave? Then you leave. But at least you tried. At least you showed up. He yawned. Look, I've known you for 8 years. I've watched you build an empire and destroy competitors and make decisions that affected thousands of people. You're brilliant at business, but you're terrible at being vulnerable. So for once in your life, just show up as yourself, scared and flawed and sorry, and let him decide what happens next. When did you get so wise about relationships? I'm divorced twice, Isabella. I'm an expert in how not to do things. Now let me go back to sleep. Friday morning, Isabella went shopping. Not the kind of shopping she usually did, with personal assistants selecting outfits from designer boutiques. She went to Target and bought wrapping paper and ribbon and a birthday card with a dolphin on it. She went to a bookstore and spent an hour in the children's section, reading through marine biology books until she found the perfect one. Comprehensive but age-appropriate, with beautiful illustrations and a section on dolphins. Then she went to a bakery and ordered a custom cake for Saturday delivery. I need it to look like a dolphin, she told the bewildered baker. It's for an 8-year-old girl who wants to be a marine biologist, or possibly the president. She hasn't decided yet. The baker stared at her. Don't you run that tech company? I saw you on the news. Yes, as Isabella met her eyes, and I'm trying to do something right for once. Can you make the cake? The woman studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Dolphin cake. Got it? What time do you need it? 1:30 tomorrow. I'll pick it up myself. Saturday morning arrived too fast and too slow. Isabella woke up at 6, spent 3 hours getting ready, and still felt completely unprepared. She changed outfits 4 times before settling on jeans and a simple sweater. Nice, but not expensive looking, somewhere between Isabella and Izzy. She picked up the cake at 1:30. It was perfect. Blue frosting shaped into a dolphin mid-leap, with little waves and everything. The baker had added a small banner that said, "Happy 8th birthday, Mia," in letters that looked like they were made of seashells. Thank you, Isabella said, meaning it more than the woman could know. Good luck, the baker replied, with whatever you're trying to fix. The drive to Caleb's apartment took 15 minutes, but felt like traveling to another universe. Isabella parked on the street, carefully lifted the cake from the passenger seat, and stared up at the third-floor windows. She could hear music and laughter drifting down. The party had already started. This was it. The moment where she either walked away and respected Caleb's boundaries, or she showed up uninvited and fought for something that might already be lost. Isabella thought about Mia's drawing, about Caleb's note saying he'd watched her press conference, about 8-year-old wisdom that insisted grown-ups just made things complicated because they were scared. She'd already done the scary thing by admitting her lies publicly. Now she had to do the scarier thing and admit them privately, to the people who actually deserved the apology. Isabella took a deep breath, balanced the dolphin cake carefully in her arms, and walked toward the building entrance. The door to apartment 3C was slightly ajar, children's voices spilling out into the hallway along with the smell of pizza and the opening notes of what sounded like happy birthday. Isabella stood outside, cake in hand, heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. She knocked. The music stopped. Footsteps approached. The door opened wider. Caleb stood there, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said mechanic, like a doctor but for cars, holding a paper plate with pizza on it. His expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and something that might have been anger before settling on carefully neutral. Isabella. Hi. She lifted the cake slightly. I brought this. For Mia. I know you said you needed space, and I'm sorry for not respecting that, but she sent me another drawing and I couldn't not show up for her birthday. And I understand if you want me to leave, but I'm here and I'm sorry and... Is that Izzy? Mia's voice came from inside the apartment, followed by the sound of running feet. She appeared next to her father, eyes going wide when she saw Isabella. You came! Dad, she came! I told you she would come! Mia, we talked about this, Caleb started, but Mia was already past him, throwing her arms around Isabella's waist in a hug that almost toppled the cake. You brought a dolphin cake, Mia squealed. A real, actual dolphin cake. This is the best birthday ever. Other children appeared in the doorway, curious about the commotion. Caleb stepped into the hallway, closing the door slightly behind him to give them privacy. I can't believe you actually came, he said quietly. Mia invited me. Isabella looked down at his daughter, who was still attached to her waist, and I needed to apologize. Properly. Not to the press or the public, to both of you. We need to talk, Caleb said, but not now, not during her party. I can leave the cake and go. No, Mia's grip tightened. You have to stay. You have to see me blow out the candles and eat cake and meet all my friends. And, Mia, Caleb's voice was gentle but firm. This is complicated. Isabella and I need to have a conversation, and I don't know how that conversation is going to end. Mia looked up at her father with devastating 8-year-old sincerity. But Dad, she came. She came even though she was probably really scared you'd tell her to leave. That means she's trying, and you always say trying is what matters most. Isabella felt tears building behind her eyes. Your dad is right, sweetheart. We do need to talk. But I'm here now, and I brought cake, and if it's okay with your dad, I'd like to stay long enough to sing happy birthday. Caleb looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Isabella holding a dolphin cake in the hallway of his apartment building, then back at Mia. 1 hour, he said finally. You can stay for the party, but after the other kids leave, we talk. Really talk. Okay, Isabella agreed. Thank you. The party was chaos in the best way. 8 children running around Caleb's small apartment, playing games that had no clear rules, eating pizza and cake with the kind of enthusiasm that resulted in frosting on every surface. Isabella stayed in the background mostly, helping to serve food and clean up spills, watching Mia open presents and blow out candles shaped like dolphins. The marine biology book Isabella had wrapped was opened with genuine excitement. This is amazing! Mia flipped through pages, stopping on a photo of a pod of dolphins. Look, Dad, it has a whole chapter just about dolphin communication. That's really cool, sweetheart. Caleb's eyes met Isabella's over his daughter's head. The look was complicated. Gratitude mixed with hurt, mixed with something that might have been the beginning of forgiveness, or might not. Isabella couldn't tell. The hours stretched into 90 minutes before the last parent came to pick up their child. Mia hugged each friend goodbye, then turned to Isabella with slightly wild eyes, clearly coming down from a sugar high. Can you stay longer, please? Your dad and I need to talk, Isabella said gently, alone, but thank you for inviting me to your party. I had a wonderful time. Are you going to fix things? Mia asked directly. Are you and Dad going to stop being mad at each other? That's what we're going to try to figure out. After Mia was reluctantly sent to her room to play with her new toys, Caleb and Isabella stood in the kitchen washing dishes in silence. The cake sat on the counter half-eaten, still recognizable as a dolphin if you looked at it right. Thank you for the cake, Caleb said finally. And the book. She'll read it cover to cover by tomorrow. She's an amazing kid. Yeah, she is. He dried a plate, set it in the cabinet. She's also incredibly forgiving, way more forgiving than I am. Isabella's hand stilled in the soapy water. I know. And I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me apologize. Really apologize, not the public version. Caleb gestured to the small living room. They sat on the couch where they'd watched movies every Thursday, where Mia had fallen asleep between them more than once, where everything had felt simple and real before the truth came crashing down. I'm sorry, Isabella said, the words barely adequate for the enormity of what she'd done. I'm sorry I lied to you about who I was. I'm sorry I tested you like you were an experiment instead of a person. I'm sorry I let you struggle with money problems I could have helped with. I'm sorry I brought Mia into this without thinking about what would happen when she found out. I'm sorry I was so scared of getting hurt that I hurt you instead. Caleb listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. I watched your press conference, he said when she finished. Multiple times, actually, trying to figure out if you meant any of it or if it was just more performance. I meant every word. I believe you. That's what makes this so hard. He ran his hands through his hair. Because I'm still angry, Isabella. I'm angry that you didn't trust me with the truth. I'm angry that you watched me stress about bills and birthday parties and whether I was enough for my daughter when you could have... I don't even know what you could have done. That's the thing. I don't know what our relationship would have looked like if you'd been honest from the beginning. Neither do I, Isabella admitted. And I hate that. I hate that I'll never know if you could have loved me as Isabella instead of Izzy. I stole that possibility from both of us. Why did you really do it? Caleb asked. Not the public explanation. The real reason. Isabella looked at him, this good man who'd let her into his life, who'd shared his daughter and his struggles and his heart, and told him the complete truth. I did it because being rich and powerful didn't protect me from getting hurt. After my fiancé, I felt stupid and used and completely alone. I had billions of dollars and companies and influence, and none of it mattered because the person I loved only saw me as a bank account. So I decided that if I hid the money, if I stripped away everything except me, I could find someone who actually saw me. But what I didn't realize until I lost you was that me includes the money and the company and all of it. You can't separate Isabella, the person, from Isabella, the CEO. They're the same person. And by pretending otherwise, I wasn't protecting myself. I was just being a coward. You weren't a coward for being scared, Caleb said quietly. You were a coward for not trusting me enough to tell me the truth when it mattered. The words stung because they were true. I know, and I can't change that. But I'm here now, being completely honest, asking if there's any chance you could ever trust me again. Not right now, not tomorrow, but someday. Caleb was quiet for a long time. In the other room, they could hear Mia playing, making sound effects for her new toys. I don't know, he said finally. I want to. Part of me wants to forgive you and move forward and see if we can build something real this time. But another part of me is terrified you're going to hurt us again, that this is just another version of the test, and eventually you'll decide we're not worth the trouble. You're worth everything, Isabella said fiercely. Both of you. You're worth more than my company and my money and every single thing I've built. I just wish I'd figured that out before I destroyed what we had. So do I. They sat in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. I'm not asking you to decide anything right now, Isabella said. I'm just asking you not to completely close the door. Can you do that? Caleb looked at her with eyes that held pain and hope and exhaustion. I can try. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was something. It was a chance. A chance turned out to be the hardest thing Isabella had ever worked for, and she'd built a multi-billion-dollar company from scratch. The first week after Mia's birthday party, Caleb didn't call, didn't text, didn't respond to the single message Isabella sent thanking him for letting her stay. She forced herself not to reach out again, respecting the boundary he'd drawn, even though every day of silence felt like confirmation that she'd lost him for good. But on day 8, her phone buzzed with a message that made her heart stop. Mia wants to know if you'd like to come to her school art show next Friday. No pressure, just extending the invitation. See. Isabella stared at those words for a full minute before responding. I would love to. Thank you for asking. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. 6 p.m. Riverside Elementary. I'll meet you there. The art show was exactly what Isabella expected from an elementary school event. Children's drawings covering every available wall space, proud parents taking photos, teachers circulating with encouraging comments about everyone's unique artistic vision. Isabella arrived 10 minutes early and waited outside until she saw Caleb's truck pull into the parking lot. He got out first, then helped Mia from the passenger seat. She was wearing a dress Isabella had never seen before, purple with sparkles, clearly chosen for the occasion, and her pink glasses were polished to a shine. Izzy! Mia ran toward her, then stopped a few feet away, suddenly uncertain. I mean, Isabella, I still don't know what to call you. Whatever feels right to you, Isabella said softly. I'll answer to either. Mia considered this seriously, then closed the distance and took Isabella's hand. Come on, my drawing is in the second grade section and it's really good. I used every single color. Caleb followed behind them, his expression carefully neutral. When their eyes met, Isabella tried to communicate everything she couldn't say in front of Mia. Gratitude for this chance. Understanding of his caution, hope that maybe they could find their way back to something real. He nodded slightly. It was enough. Mia's drawing was indeed every color, a chaotic explosion of dolphins and rainbows, and what might have been a volcano but could also have been a mountain, or possibly a very ambitious ice cream cone. It was beautiful in the way that children's art is beautiful, completely sincere, utterly confident, unafraid of judgment. I love it, Isabella said. The dolphins look very happy. They are happy. They're swimming to the rainbow volcano where they live with the ocean president. Mia pointed to a stick figure wearing a crown and what appeared to be a snorkel. That's me in the future. I can definitely see the resemblance, Caleb said, smiling despite himself. They walked through to the art show together, an awkward, almost family, stopping at each piece while Mia provided detailed context that was probably 70% invention. Other parents glanced at them curiously. Some recognized Isabella from the news coverage, their expressions ranging from sympathy to judgment. Isabella ignored them all. The only opinions that mattered were walking beside her. After the art show, Mia asked if they could get ice cream. Caleb hesitated, clearly torn between wanting to maintain boundaries and not wanting to disappoint his daughter on her special night. Just ice cream, Isabella offered quietly. Nothing more. We can meet you there if you'd prefer. Something in Caleb's expression softened. No. We can go together. The ice cream shop was the same corner store where they'd gone dozens of times before, where 2 for $5 ice cream bars had been their routine. But this time felt different, careful, like they were relearning how to be around each other. Mia chattered about her art project while chocolate ice cream melted down her hand. Caleb asked polite questions about how Isabella's week had been. Isabella answered honestly. Work was fine. She'd joined a book club. She'd been thinking about them constantly, but didn't say that last part out loud. When Mia ran ahead to throw away her napkin, Caleb turned to Isabella. Thank you for coming tonight. It meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to me too. Isabella watched Mia examine something in a shop window. How have you been? Really? Confused. Caleb's honesty was immediate and gutting. Part of me is still angry. Part of me misses what we had. Part of me doesn't know if what we had was even real or just a performance you were giving. It was real, Isabella said urgently. The feelings were real. The connection was real. The only thing that was fake was my bank balance. That's not a small thing, Isabella. You're a billionaire. I'm a mechanic who lives paycheck to paycheck. Those aren't worlds that usually overlap. They overlapped for 4 months. Because you made them overlap by lying. Caleb's voice wasn't angry, just tired. I don't know how to trust that they can overlap honestly. Mia came running back before Isabella could respond, asking if they could walk through the park on the way home. They did. The three of them following familiar paths under streetlights, everything achingly the same and completely different. When they reached Caleb's building, Mia hugged Isabella goodnight with the same fierce enthusiasm she always had. Will you come to my soccer game next week? I'm terrible at soccer, but Dad says trying is more important than being good. Isabella looked at Caleb, asking permission. Saturday morning, he said. 10 a.m. at Riverside Park. You can come if you want. I want. The soccer game became a pattern. Then a school play where Mia had 2 lines as a tree. Then a library reading competition. Small events where Isabella could show up and be present without the weight of their complicated history crushing every interaction. Caleb was polite but distant. They talked about safe topics, Mia's school, the weather, neutral observations that didn't require vulnerability. He never invited Isabella back to his apartment, never suggested they do anything without Mia present, never touched her except for accidental brushes of hands that he pulled away from quickly. It was torture. But it was also more than Isabella deserved, so she took what she could get and tried to be patient. 3 weeks after the art show, Marcus cornered Isabella in her office. You're miserable, he observed. More miserable than when this whole thing blew up. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're going through the motions at work, barely eating, and I heard you turn down the Time magazine cover story. He sat down without being invited. What's happening with the mechanic? His name is Caleb, and I'm trying to earn back his trust. How's that going? Slowly. Isabella stared at her computer screen without seeing it. He lets me come to Mia's events. He's polite, but it's like there's this wall between us now that I can't figure out how to climb. Have you tried actually talking to him? Not at kids' events or in public, but really talking. He doesn't want to be alone with me. Every interaction has to have Mia present. Marcus studied her with the analytical precision he brought to business problems. So change the equation. Do something that shows him you understand what you did wrong and you're actively working to be different. Like what? I don't know. You're the genius CEO. Figure it out. After Marcus left, Isabella sat in her office and thought about what Caleb had said at the ice cream shop. Those aren't worlds that usually overlap. He was right. Her world of boardrooms and billions existed in a completely different universe from his world of auto shops and budgets, but maybe that was the problem. Maybe she'd been trying to keep those worlds separate when what she should have been doing was finding a way to bridge them. Isabella picked up her phone and made a call she should have made months ago. Jennifer, I need you to set up a meeting with the head of our community outreach program and get me everything we have on educational scholarships and programs for underprivileged kids. Any particular reason? I'm done hiding who I am. Time to use my resources for something that actually matters. The program took 6 weeks to design and another 2 to implement. Isabella worked with her team to create a comprehensive scholarship fund specifically for children of single parents, covering everything from school supplies to extracurricular activities to college savings accounts. She partnered with local organizations, visited schools, and put her name and her money behind something that would make a real difference. She didn't tell Caleb, didn't announce it publicly, or use it as leverage to win him back. She just did it because it was right and because she was tired of her wealth being something she either hid or wielded without purpose. The announcement went out on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, her phone was ringing. Caleb's number. Isabella answered on the first ring. Hello? Did you really just create a $50 million scholarship fund for kids like Mia? His voice was incredulous. Yes. How did you find out? It's all over the news. Isabella Reed announces major education initiative for children of single parents. They interviewed people at Mia's school. Her principal called me crying because apparently 3 kids in her class just qualified for full coverage. Caleb paused. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't do it to impress you. I did it because you were right. I have resources that can actually help people, and I've been too busy protecting myself to use them properly. Silence on the other end. Then, can we talk? Actually talk, not in a park or at a school event, just you and me. Isabella's heart jumped. When? Tonight, after Mia goes to bed. Come to my apartment. Are you sure? No. Caleb's laugh was shaky. But I think we need to do this anyway. Isabella showed up at 8:30 after Mia's bedtime, holding nothing but the truth and a hope that maybe it would be enough. Caleb opened the door wearing jeans and an old college sweatshirt, his hair damp from a shower, looking nervous and tired and so familiar that Isabella's chest ached. Come in, he said. The apartment looked the same. Same worn couch, same crooked picture frame on the wall, same kitchen that was too small to turn around in. But walking into it now felt different, like entering a space she'd been exiled from and wasn't sure she had permission to occupy. They sat on the couch, careful to leave space between them. I've been thinking a lot about what you said at Mia's birthday party, Caleb started. About how you can't separate Isabella the person from Isabella the CEO. About how they're the same person. It's true. They are. I know. And I've been trying to figure out what that means. For us, if there is an us. He turned to face her. Here's what I realized. I fell in love with Izzy because she was kind and smart and good with my daughter. But those things didn't come from her being broke. They came from her being you. The real you was there the whole time, just wrapped in lies about everything else. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning, Isabella said. Yeah, you should have. But I also should have trusted that someone like you could genuinely want someone like me. But Caleb ran his hand through his hair. I've spent 7 years telling myself that I'm not enough, that Mia deserves better than what I can give her, that any woman who got to know us would eventually realize she could do better. So when you showed up pretending to be struggling too, it felt safe. Like maybe I was enough for someone in the same situation. You were always enough, Isabella said fiercely. You are enough. The money had nothing to do with why I fell in love with you. I believe you. That's what's been killing me these past 2 months. I believe you loved me, but I don't know if you loved me enough to be honest. And I don't know if I can build something real with someone who might lie to protect herself when things get scary. The words hit like a punch. You're right. I don't know if I can promise I'll never be scared again. But I can promise I'll never lie to you again. Not about who I am or what I'm feeling or anything else that matters. How do I know that? You don't. Isabella met his eyes. That's what trust is. It's believing someone will do the right thing even when you have no guarantee. I'm asking you to trust me again, knowing I already broke that trust once. It's not fair and it's asking a lot, and I completely understand if you can't do it. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. The scholarship fund. That's really going to help families like mine? Families exactly like yours. Single parents working their asses off to give their kids everything. Kids like Mia who are brilliant and deserve every opportunity. Isabella's voice softened. I spent 3 years testing men to see if they were good enough for me. But you and Mia taught me that the real test was whether I was good enough for you. And I failed that test. But I'm trying to do better. Why does it matter so much? Caleb asked. You could have anyone. Anyone with money and status and a life that makes sense with yours. Why fight this hard for a mechanic and his kid? Because loving you and Mia was the first time in my life I felt like I was home, Isabella said simply. Not in a place or a penthouse or a company, just home. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until I lost it. Caleb's expression cracked slightly. I missed you. I hate that I missed you after what you did. But I did. The apartment feels empty. Thursday nights feel wrong. Mia asks about you constantly. I missed you too, every single day. I'm still scared, Caleb admitted. Scared that the difference in our lives is too big to bridge. Scared that you'll get tired of slumming it with a guy who has grease under his nails. Scared that Mia will get attached again and you'll leave. I'm scared too, Isabella said. Scared that I don't know how to be in a real relationship because I've never actually tried. Scared that I'll mess this up again. Scared that you'll realize I'm not worth the trouble. You're worth the trouble. Caleb said it quietly, but with certainty. You're difficult and complicated, and you made a massive mistake. But you're also kind and smart, and you love my daughter like she's yours. That's worth fighting for. So what do? We start over, not from scratch, but from honesty. Caleb shifted closer, the space between them shrinking. No more lies. No more tests. No more pretending to be someone you're not. Just you and me, figuring out how to make 2 very different worlds fit together. I can do that. Isabella's voice shook slightly. I want to do that. I need you to understand something. Caleb took her hand, the first time he'd voluntarily touched her in 2 months. I can't be your project. I can't be the guy you help because you feel guilty about having money. If this is going to work, it has to be because you actually want this life. The small apartment and the struggling budget and the reality of what dating a single father means. I want this life, Isabella said. I want Thursday movie nights and Sunday pancakes and helping with homework. I want to be there when Mia loses another tooth and when she decides whether she wants to be a marine biologist or the president. I want to build something real with you, even if it's messy and complicated and doesn't make sense to anyone else. It's not going to be easy, Caleb warned. People are going to have opinions. The press is going to be interested. Your world and my world are going to clash sometimes. Let them clash. We'll figure it out together. Caleb searched her face, looking for cracks in the truth she was offering. Whatever he saw must have satisfied him because he pulled her closer, erasing the last of the distance between them. If we do this, we do it all the way, he said. No half measures. No keeping parts of your life separate from me. I need to know all of you, not just the parts you think I can handle. Okay, Isabella felt tears building. But same goes for you. No more assuming I'm going to leave or that you're not enough. We're partners in this, which means we both have to be honest about our fears. Deal. He kissed her then, soft and careful and full of second chances. It felt like coming home after a long exile, like finding something you'd thought was lost forever. When they pulled apart, Caleb was smiling. Mia is going to lose her mind when she finds out we're giving this another try. Should we tell her tonight? No, let's figure out what this looks like first. Take it slow, do it right this time. He tucked a strand of hair behind Isabella's ear. But for the record, I love you. I've loved you since that first night at the diner when you forgot your wallet, and I paid without thinking twice. And I'm choosing to love you again now, knowing everything, risks and all. I love you too, Isabella whispered. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of that trust. You already are. Starting over slowly meant dates where Isabella was completely herself. She took Caleb to her penthouse and let him see how she actually lived. She invited him to a board meeting and showed him what her work actually entailed. She introduced him to Marcus and Jennifer and the parts of her life that had nothing to do with retail work or thrift store clothes. Caleb took her to the auto shop and showed her how to change oil. He introduced her to his friends as his girlfriend without qualifiers or explanations. He let her pay for dinner sometimes and didn't make it weird, slowly learning to accept that her having money didn't diminish him having less. They fought sometimes, about boundaries and expectations and how to blend their different worlds without losing themselves in the process. But they fought honestly, without lies or tests or games, and they figured it out together. Mia was thrilled when they finally told her they were trying again. I knew it, she announced triumphantly. I told Dad you just needed to say sorry the right way, and he needed to stop being scared. Adults make everything so complicated. You're absolutely right, Isabella agreed, pulling Mia into a hug. We do make everything complicated. Thank you for being smarter than both of us. You're welcome. Can we get pizza now? 6 months after Mia's birthday party, Isabella made a decision that terrified her more than any business deal ever had. She invited Caleb and Mia to move into her penthouse. I know it's a lot of space, she said nervously, showing them around the 40-floor apartment that suddenly felt too big and too empty. But I was thinking Mia could have her own room. A real room. Not a corner of your bedroom with a curtain. And there's a study that could be perfect for homework and science projects. And the view. Isabella. Caleb stopped her rambling. Take a breath. She did. This is a huge step, he said carefully. You're sure you want us here? Want us invading your space with soccer equipment and art supplies and the general chaos that comes with an 8-year-old? I want the chaos, Isabella said. I want your socks on my bathroom floor, and Mia's drawings on my refrigerator, and family dinners at a table that actually fits more than 2 people. I want to stop living in separate worlds and start building one together. Caleb looked at Mia. What do you think, kiddo? Mia was already running from room to room, examining everything with wide eyes. Can I really have my own room? With a real bed and not a pull-out couch? You can have whatever you want, Isabella promised. We can decorate it however you like. Dolphins, planets, rainbows, whatever makes you happy. All of them, Mia announced. I want dolphins and planets and rainbows. Then that's what you'll get. They moved in 3 weeks later. Caleb was nervous about it, worried about feeling like he was living in Isabella's space rather than their space. So Isabella changed things. She converted one of the spare rooms into a workshop where Caleb could work on projects. She redecorated the living room with furniture they chose together. She made space in her closet and her bathroom and her life for them to actually belong. It was messy and chaotic and sometimes frustrating. Mia left toys everywhere. Caleb couldn't figure out how to work the smart home system and kept accidentally turning off lights in rooms he wasn't in. The morning routine was a disaster until they figured out a system. But it was also perfect. Sunday morning pancakes in a kitchen with actual counter space. Thursday movie nights on a couch that fit all 3 of them comfortably. Bedtime stories in Mia's new room with its Dolphin Planet rainbow mural that had cost a small fortune and was worth every penny. A year after everything fell apart, Isabella stood in her penthouse, their penthouse now, watching Caleb help Mia with homework while music played softly in the background. The city glittered below them, full of people living their lives. But for the first time in years, Isabella wasn't watching from outside anymore. She was part of something real, messy and imperfect, and built on honesty instead of tests. Caleb looked up and caught her watching. "You okay?" "Yeah," Isabella smiled. "I'm home." And she was. Not because of the penthouse or the city view or the fortune that had bought it all, but because of the man who'd seen past her lies to the person underneath, and the little girl who'd taught her that love wasn't something you could test or earn or prove. Love was something you showed up for. Honestly. Completely. Without games or guards or fear. Isabella Reed had spent 3 years trying to find someone who could pass her test. But in the end, the real test was whether she could pass theirs. Whether she could be brave enough to show up as herself, flawed and scared and sorry, and trust them to love her anyway. She'd failed that test once, spectacularly, but she'd learned something that no amount of money or power could teach. That the strongest love wasn't proven through tests or trials or carefully constructed scenarios. It was proven through honesty, kindness, and showing up when there was nothing to gain except the privilege of being present in someone else's life. This time, she'd passed. And this time, she was never letting go.